Okay, we got a good early start this morning, or fairly decent start this morning. We got this side just about prepped. Let me shut this light off. Well, can't see it either way. There we go. Anyway, that's what the inside of your square body cab corner is going to look like. There's several different pieces going on. This would be your inner rocker here, and then your outer, and then your cab corner. And there's three different pieces here, and you gotta drill these spot welds out because they're just held. Your whole truck's held together by spot welds and glue. You know, that's how I say it anyway. But anyway, it's probably a little more than that, but not much. The body anyway, I mean, you got a few bolts back in there, but at any rate, you drill those out and you peel that piece off. Here we go. See, there's the piece right there. You can see where I drilled it out. I just drilled it out from the front because I'm not using this piece. The fresh piece will cover it. Spot weld it from the back side, and then, you know, butt weld it in here. I am going to do this a little bit. See, I cut off a little bit more than I actually needed to because it was good clear down to here, but I'm doing that intentionally so I match what I did on the other side. And what I don't like on these is down low here where the rockers are going and exposed is this seam right here, right back in the corner back there, that comes down, and it's part of this cab corner right here, and they fill that with seam sealer. Well, okay, that's the way they do it, but in my opinion, and like I said, I'm not a body guy, but the way I'm going to do this to make it so I can try to keep the moisture out of there is I'm going to run this new panel. Here's my new panel I made, upside down of course, and then we just slip it in here. And I'm going to overlap my outer rocker because my outer rocker is in really good shape and it's my truck and I'm not doing this to resell it. And that corner right there, I'll just bend it over and weld in that corner right there. And what I'm trying to do is keep moisture and crap out of here, which probably will never happen, but not 100%. I don't even know if you want it 100%, but at any rate, what happens, what I saw on this truck was in this corner here and down here through here is the seam sealer had gotten old. I mean, it's an 86 truck, right? You know, we're 30 something years old, almost 40. Anyway, this seam sealer finally gave out. Well, this piece here, this cab corner that goes down, is not tight. As you can see in the corner there, it's not tight. It's there. You know, there's a gap right there, and they fill that with that seam sealer. Well, as soon as that fails, then this corner fills up with water and goop and everything, and you don't even know it that it's happening, and then it begins to rot your corners out. So if you got one of these trucks and your corners are good, which I can't believe that it is, but it's possible, I would definitely be checking the seam sealer right here, because that's down low in all the crap that's going by, whatever's going by. If you live up north here like we do, they put calcium chloride on some of the roads and salts, whatever, gravel, sand, whatever, and all that's going by just beating the crap out of that corner. And if that seam is open, boy, it's going to rot out your inners, your outers, the cab corners, and it'll start in on your rockers. I mean, that's this one up here, you know, so a guy's going to have to check that. But boy, they're a lot of work once you get them. I think once you get them, you know, straightened her out the first time, you're probably okay. But anyway, like I said, this floorboard was just beautiful. You know, I'm really, you know, blessed that it is. I started cleaning that over there. You can see how filthy this is behind the seat, and then how I started cleaning there, and it actually polishes up. From here down is that little jump box that is back here, and I'm not putting a cardboard one back in it. I'm gonna build something, you know, probably out of wood and have a steel frame, and I'm putting my buckets in here, so it'll be kind of a part of that whole deal going on. But we'll figure it out when we get there. I haven't got no plan on that yet. My plan is to get this interior in, get my seats in, so I can use my truck again. You know, I'm way behind. But speaking of way behind, I'm going to weld in this corner. I've always found that I get a lot more superior welds. Ooh. Yeah. Far superior welds. Boy, that sounds really cool. Anyway, if all this is kept clean up here, and I tell you know, I've been a welder of sorts. Got paid to do it a few times. Sometimes I was working on my own stuff. But, you know, been paid quite a few times to be a welder. Structural stuff, building trailers, specialized trailers, things like that. You know, big, heavy. And I'll tell you, you start welding sheet metal, boy, oh boy, I'll tell you what. You got to think a whole completely different way, you know. You know, I got a little piece of brass that I've got to go get before I start. I was using that yesterday. Somebody mentioned that, having a piece of brass. I think it was Fitzy said that they would set brass back there, and he had some, and it absorbs the heat out of there, and you have a lot less burn-throughs. On this flange right here, that's pretty important. That turns out really nice, so I'm going to use that on there. Up here, there's no way to get back there because of the inner. But anyway, so yeah, like I said though, you better have your game face on when you start doing sheet metal. You know, boy, that's a real test whether you're a welder or not. And I suppose having a really super razoo machine probably makes it easy. I don't know. I don't work in a body shop. I'd be interested to see what the real big dogs that really make money at this thing, you know, that's what they're making money at is that, not YouTube. I'd like to know what they used for welders. You know, that'd be interesting. Anyways, here's something else. I got this little roll around bench thing here, you know, one of the things you sit on. I'm using it as a you know, I don't have a hoist or anything, you know. I could have jacked it all up, but then it'd been too high, because I know that I don't have no way to get it up high enough in the air where I could just walk up at this level and work on this. Make sure you're comfortable when you're welding anything, you know, because you got to be in that position, that pose for an extended period of time. There's not a lot of moving around when you're welding. So when you get where you're going to do the work, boy, you better get comfortable. Dissimilar metals is what they actually call that. Dissimilar metals, so meaning they are opposite types of metal, because the aluminum is completely different than steel. Matter of fact, you really don't want to mount aluminum directly to a piece of steel without something being in there. And when I ran the truck business for so many years, we started putting silicone sealer around where we could, just like they did on these trucks, but in between aluminum and steel we would use a thing called Mylar tape. I think it was spelled M-Y-L-A-R, Mylar tape. I think that might not be the exact spelling, but that's close. We Mylar tape, and it didn't really have a glue on it, but it was just sticky enough where it would stay on something long enough to get it assembled. It wasn't for taping boxes with. It was a shield, and we started putting it behind even steel to steel. And I had a big roll of it. I still got a bunch of that left, and I think it's 3 inches wide. And we would put it in between pieces on those trucks, because a dissimilar metal, especially aluminum, against steel, it'll start up a chemical reaction between the two of them. And it's weird, and it will actually eat the aluminum and eat the steel too. I mean, just eat holes through everything, you know. It was amazing to see the destruction, you know. And you can see all them trucks and stuff, equipment, high dollar equipment going down the road, you know. I'm going to start doing it on this thing. Anytime I have something apart, I'm going to put that Mylar tape in there if I think it warrants that, you know. Rear end mounts and purchases against springs and stuff like that would greatly benefit by sealing that metal contact, if you can, with something like that. I hesitate using silicone in certain areas because a lot of times the silicone or a sealer of any kind, like this here, eventually it's going to break down, and eventually it's going to let moisture in. Well, now you got the same stuff that's supposed to be protecting the metal against the elements. It's actually holding the elements inside once it gets in there. See, that's why I kind of like the Mylar tape idea instead of a liquid of sorts. You know, I took a trailer apart, aluminum trailer apart one time, that they had put that sealer in there like a caulking, and it eventually failed, and it really, you know, it did some damage. It wasn't something that was not repairable. I ended up having to cut all the purchases off and put brand new steel purchases on, and they were long. You know, I think I ended up putting like purchase on that was almost 4 feet long. You know, big angle iron pieces that I had built out of 2 pieces and welded it in place so it fit the frame perfectly. You know, once that stuff gets compromised when you replace it, especially on a liability issue like that, it has to be as perfect as the factory put it in. But most likely, if you're running a really tough area like we do up here in the mountains and stuff, it has to be 20% or 30% better built than what the factory did for DOT to really be happy with it. Anyways, we got, what I was trying to do was strengthen up this corner right here because it's all flush in here, so it's gonna stay put. Then I got a pretty decent tack down here, but it's kind of thin right there, so I'm laying off of it and letting it cool. This piece here, right there, you should be able to see right here in this corner isn't quite up as far as I want it. So I'm going to bring some heat down here after I get this pushed in. I'm going to bring some heat down here and start warming this piece up and get a vice grip ready here and push this up until it touches. Even if I've got to reform it a little bit right in there with my point. See, get it pushed up in there. I probably won't even have to trim this piece off because that's about what I'm short up here. And once I get all that into place where I want it, See, this is pretty much where I want it, everywhere down through here, so I can take my time welding on that. Don't get in any hurry, because that corner is what everybody's going to look at and over afterwards when it's all said and done. You know, I can push up on that right there, tack that corner, and that helps that corner a lot. You know, actually that brings in that some as well. So anyway, I'm gonna get to work here, guys, and I gotta get into a